Hello, and we are back once again with the Audi RS5. Last weekend freed up the brakes on this side because they were binding, and this week we're freeing up the brakes on this side. That's not good. 3D printed one of these bolt cap removers. Let's see if it works. Oh. Okay. So I've got the wheel off. Here is the wheel. I've had a little look at it. So the rim itself is nice, no cracks, and the tyre has around 6mm left tread, so that's actually pretty good. Very similar to last time, apart from we now have a brake wear sensor that we should be very careful with. I need to disconnect that, either pull it out here or pull it out the actual harness. But looking at these little sliders and the shims where this car gets the majority of its corrosion causing brake bind, the top ones look fine, the bottom ones very slight gap, so like 0.5mm or less, which isn't helping the situation. Okay, so I've taken both the pins out, the top pin, the bottom pin, and I've already found something a bit strange. So on both of these little inserts, they're both slightly damaged. So the right one's fine, the left one's a bit bent. The only thing I can think of is when it was put on, the pads weren't in the correct place. So you put it on like this, and in order to get this on properly and put the pin through, you'd have to use quite a bit of force, meaning it bent. But the reason for it bending must be because this wasn't quite in the right place, so that's interesting. I just need to pull back the pads to depress the pistons, and that should free up the pad from the disc, and then we just slide it out this way. Should be easy, but last time it wasn't, and this time I'm sure it isn't going to be easy again. Pushed back the piston very easily, which is a really good sign, but same as last time, the pads aren't coming out again. Something is keeping them in there, so I don't think I'm going to bother trying too hard like this. I'm just going to take the caliper off because that just makes it so much easier. Only thing we need to do right now is work out how to take this brake pad wear sensor out. We'll give it a little wiggle. So I tried to pull the sensor out of the pad, but I think I may have broken it. So I've just taken it off the plug for now, and we may need to get a new one of those, but should be not any more than 20 quid for one of those, so not too bad. Right now I'm going to take off these two bolts and take the entire caliper off. The caliper is now off, resting on this box, and this zip tie up here is keeping it up. I'm trying to protect the brake line here because this part I'm covering up a very sharp piece of like heat shield. I don't want it to cut the brake line. Anyway, we have the 4 brake pads here, and these little posts again seem to be very corroded, and I cannot get these out with my own hands, so I'm going to have to use some sort of hammer. A light tap of the hammer and all 4 pads are out. All we need to do now is just clean everything up, wire brush it all, brake cleaner it, try and pull out the pistons a little bit, see how easily they come out. I think the pistons are completely fine, which is really good, really lucky. It's just a fact of lubing up, cleaning up the brake pads and all the sliding surfaces, and also underneath these shims. Take the shims off and clean out underneath. So here's the brake pad with the brake pad sensor embedded into it, and I've accidentally snapped the top part of it, the sensor, but I don't think that's going to affect the operation of it. I think how it works is when the pad gets low, obviously it's going to effectively wear out this part of the sensor. This part is going to be destroyed by the disc. You know, it's going to get smaller. This pad's going to get smaller and smaller, eventually wear this part out. So I think the wires are still intact. So that's all that matters, I believe. So what I'm going to do is super glue this part back together, and that's it. Should still work. We shouldn't get any warnings. If we do get a warning, when I plug it all back together, of course I'm going to replace the sensor, not the pad, just pull it out. But for now, I'm just going to super glue it. Try and hold it together for a little bit. Hold it in the correct position for a couple of seconds. And there we are, it's fixed. We'll see if that fixes it. We'll see if it causes any lights to come on the dashboard, but it shouldn't do, so let's move on. I've wire brushed all 4 of these pads. They're now nice and clean. I have used brake cleaner on them to scrub them up, all good. I've wire brushed this face here because the wheel did take a bit of kicking to get it off. The last thing to do now is just wire brush all inside of that caliper. Just going to ease up this little shim because there is a fair amount of, look at that, corrosion and crap underneath of that, which is slowly raising this shim up, surprisingly, which means this gap here where the pad goes gets smaller, and so the pad can't actually move very well. It's too tight for it. So it's going to slowly ease this up and then just scrape out all of this rubbish. Yeah. Take a look at that. It's looking a lot better, a lot cleaner, flatter, smoother. A bit more and we'll be done. So I've just used a screwdriver to really gently pull out the pistons. So you've got 4 at the bottom there, nice and out, and these 4 at the top are out. So I'm just going to use brake cleaner now to try to clean up the caliper and the back of the pistons. Time to just put the caliper back on, torque it up to, what was it, 110 Newton meters, and then lube up the pads, put a decent amount of copper slip on all the slip areas, and then we are done. Let's give it a little go. Time to lube up all the contact parts, the slipping surfaces, and put the pads in. Everything is back together, all the pins are in, pads are in, brake sensors back in, that looks okay, that's all plugged in. So the top 2 pads went in very easily, no issues. The bottom pads, even though I did clear out the corrosion under the bottom shim, they were still a tiny bit stiff to get in, but I think it should be okay still. We'll give it a go. So before I lower the car down, I've just put the wheel on, done the bolts up like hand tight, and I've pumped the brakes, and now we're looking a lot nicer. There we are. No binding currently, but I've not driven it yet, so we'll see how that goes. No warning lights, we're looking good.